And we're back and we're discussing city council meeting on March 20th. So we left off now Councillor Perk's passionate speech about politicians getting in the way of transit plans, highlighting the Scarborough RT, which in 1970 was supposed to be a Scarborough LRT plan that was scrapped, which was politically motivated, and then suggested at that time was suggested an elevated transit plan to benefit SNC Lavaland. And then he joked, like Phil said earlier in the episode, that people should buy The Sims if they want to make those kinds of changes. Basically, was the joke.
Now, now that you said that, you've brought to the point where I was physically in the council chambers. So Matthew, would you like me to tell you a little diverging story about the reason why I was at the council chambers?
Yes, but I just want to finish this one point because it's relevant.
There.
So we're talking about The Sims, which brings me to my point that I wrote down here. I recently downloaded a game called SimCity Build It, where you're the mayor in the game. And I'm proud to say that in 3+ weeks, I'm at almost 300,000 population. They're 97% happy with the job I'm doing. Yeah, I think it's a great game. Take it away, Phil, with whatever you wanted to say. Plus, if you wanted to say something on that.
So, as you're very well aware, as Matthew has pointed out, I am a very, let's say, active participant of the Twitter platform.
Oh, yes.
I would not say I am a healthy participant. I would no, that would just be a lie. Um, in fact, okay, I feel like this is going to be very revealing about who I am as a person, including the fact that I use language very loosely, but at the same time, I'm always afraid to be misunderstood. And I also want to clarify that with, if you're aware of my Twitter antics and you see that I'm on the abrasive side, okay? And I'm saying to someone and you get the impression that I'm telling them to shut the fuck up, go fuck yourselves. That is probably what I'm saying. Like there's no confusion. If I'm being rude, I'm probably being rude. Having said that, one of my favorite counselors, we've talked about him, Paul Ainsley. I he makes himself very well, he makes what he's doing known on Twitter. And I appreciate that openness. And the main thing that I wanted to give him a shout out for is that he holds monthly town hall meetings, which I think is incredible. As far as like accessible politicians being accessible, which a lot of them just aren't. I wanted to give that shout out to Paul. And at the same time, I tagged Parthy Kendeville, my city councilor, saying, hey, you should follow this lead. Like, this is a good thing to do. Understand where I'm coming from. I thought I was giving him just an idea. Parthy misunderstood what I was trying for, and he thought I was criticizing him. He sent me a private message on Twitter to talk about how disappointed he was in my unfair criticism of him. He mentioned these public town halls that he's done already, that he's got more planned in the future, and that he would have really appreciated if I contacted his office before making that criticism.
And at this point, I assume you said, well, you saw my email, correct?
So here's the thing. I responded to him, and I wanted to be clear to him. I had no intention of criticizing him. I don't know how to get across to Parthy I know he was elected 5 months ago now. In my head, it was 2 weeks ago. And I'm still thinking he's getting himself set up and ready to go as counselor. And I'm just in my mind, perhaps naively, suggesting these things that I'm like, I would love for a counselor to do. You get what I'm saying in like how I'm presenting this?
Absolutely.
So when Parthy misunderstood me and thought I was criticizing him, and again, as I said to you, I make a point. If I'm telling someone they're a bastard who can go to hell and go fuck yourself, I'm not being misunderstood. You know, like I'm saying that I know what I'm saying. But when I'm misunderstood to say something negative, when I wasn't saying any, or my intention wasn't to say anything negative, I want to be understood where I'm coming from. And the thing is, I like Parthy. As a person, I like Parthy. Politically, I think we're opposed on some things, but as a person, I like Parthy. So it just so happened that the day after he had sent me that message was the first day of this council meeting. Was that last Wednesday?
Yes.
Yeah. So I decided after work I would go to the council chambers to try to just to say to Parthy, hey man, um, that wasn't my intention. And here's the weird thing about me saying all of this. I have this weird concern that by publicizing this, I call it an incident, but I think it's more funny than anything. I'm sure people might interpret it as me trying to stay in good graces to eventually get a favor or something. That's not who I am. I legitimately wanted to apologize to Parthy because I didn't want him to have the wrong impression of where I'm coming from. If I'm going to criticize the man, I have no reservations about criticizing him. Following everything I just said, it's a very thin. I feel like that's a very thin skin response to me initially. Parthy's original, hey, I don't like this criticism. I wasn't criticizing you. But even if I were, Parthy, man, that's don't get Parthy.
It's
Come
what we
on.
do. It's what we do here.
Yeah. So that's the reason I was at the council chamber. I honestly thought it was a funny story. So I'm sitting in the council chamber, right? And the way I am, I'm very awkward. I don't know how to like I don't know how to force my way into things. And the way the seats are set up, they're kind of like horseshoe shaped. And Parthy's the second row in. If you were in the back row, I could have just talked to him from the aisle. It would have been so easy, not an issue. But he was just one row in, and I felt too awkward to just be like, "Hey, Parthy, can I talk to you for a second?" And what's great to me is when I sat down in the council chambers with my brother, and Parthy is talking to Josh Matlow in the council chambers, and he notices me, and me and him, we do like the Spider-Man point thing to each other. So like, you know, he recognizes me. He knows I'm there. I didn't know how to interrupt professionally, you know what I mean? So anyways, that's my fun uh bothering Parthy story.
And now it's time to talk about the vacant homes tax. Councillor Myers starts and he wants the city to quote, and this is his word, not mine. He wants the city to target homes the city suspects are vacant rather than just requiring each property owner to fill out an annual declaration form. City states they cannot use utility billing to confirm vacancy as per the privacy commissioner. What do you think about his wanting to target homes that the city suspects are vacant? Sounds like a witch hunt to me. I mean,
Here's the thing, okay? Um, that was another moment. I was in the council chamber for when he was suggesting like looking at the utility billings to see if anyone's home or not. I understand his logic. That is veering very dangerously close to authoritarianism. You know what I mean?
yes.
Um, I feel like it's one of those things where you understand what the good intentions are. I understand what the intentions are with a vacant home tax. Um, but I feel like they've trapped themselves because you can only rely on people telling you. I imagine 100% of the fines that come out of the vacant home tax are only going to be towards people who don't declare it at all. And I don't even mean that in a negative way. I think some people might just forget. Some people who aren't as, politically inclined probably didn't even know about it. I know in the building that I work at, where I'm a concierge, one of the unit owners, they got charged by the city for the vacant home tax because they didn't declare. But they didn't they rent their unit out. Like I know this person. They rent the unit out, so they didn't get the mail. So they never got any of the notice for the vacant thing. So I understand that situation.
And that was basically it for the March 20th meeting. There were some couple things after that, but I stopped taking notes. So now we move to March 21st, and we start with the mayor's second key item, which is the long-term financial update. I wrote a lot of questions here, so bear with me. Or I didn't write a lot of questions. I wrote a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to be reading off of it. Interrupt me when you want to say, when you have a point, when you want to say something. Holiday questions. So during his questions, he questioned about a list of 10 TTC sites where they're looking at the I guess the above ground parking, or the parking. Um, I don't, and it was about removing it, but I have here, I don't remember if it was adding or removing it, but I've learned since it was about removing it. But Holiday asks for the list, and the city says they will not provide it at this time. So then I wrote, "Oh, looks like the jobber is back." It's one of so when he was answering the question, uh, he was standing, and the how each person has like the sign, like the where they sit, there's a sign on their desk what their title is. So his said deputy city manager. Okay, so one of the deputy city managers, why 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 are we discussing this as part of a financial update for the city, who by the way is still broke? If council's not being given all the information, and also being denied when asking for the information that's missing. I don't get it. I don't get it. Also, just a quick note: whoever is working the YouTube for this meeting fucked up, and they should be fired, because the spelling on screen. You know how when they're discussing like an item, whether it's like EX, whatever. So it reads leveraging citywide real estate opportunities for affordable housing, but it is spelled opportunities is spelled OPPOTUNITES.
Oof, that
And
is quite a bit off.
affordable is spelled AFORABLE. They forgot the D. What the fuck is going on here? And for anyone who doesn't believe me, find the March 21st council meeting on YouTube. Go to 27 minutes and 30 seconds, and it'll be there. And they corrected it later on in the episode. I call
They
it
would have
an
had to.
episode. Um, Again, the city is looking to repurpose parking lot land, to maybe do something else with the land, like housing. But again, all the city, when the counselors are asking the questions, all the city's doing is giving that generic info. They're not going into detail, but they need the vote, they need the endorsement, but they're not willing to give any of the information. It's like a big waste of time for me. They don't want to list anything or talk specifics. What the fuck are we voting on? I don't get it. I don't get it. So during Councillor Morley's questions, she asked how many unhoused are in Toronto and how many affordable housing, how many are on the affordable housing wait list. And the deputy city manager could not answer her.
Yikes. I feel like that's gotta be something if you don't have the number of homeless in the city, you should absolutely have the number of on the wait list for affordable housing.
Philip, I thought about this and I thought maybe, if I was Paul Johnson, the actual city manager, when this council meeting was over, I might go looking for this guy, this deputy city manager. And I might politely ask him why he doesn't know basic shit that a deputy city manager should know. Because as we know, a deputy mayor needs to know and have all the powers that a mayor has in case the mayor is out of the picture. I would assume it's the same for city manager, deputy city manager. If the city manager is out of the picture or can't fulfill duties, the deputy city manager should step in. But to be able to do that, you have to know your shit. So you should know the basic shit a deputy city manager should know. And that the next time a question like that is asked, he better give a better answer, or I would say he would be done there. He would be finished. And of course, if he had a problem with me saying this, giving him this warning, I would just skip the part of giving him the warning and offer to help him carry his bags to the car because he'd be fucking fired. And that'd be the end of that.
It, what it's very interesting because it almost this isn't a commentary on this specific place, but as someone who I don't know how if you see this way about yourself, Matthew, but for me, I sort of see myself as the bottom of the totem pole in terms of employment and all this stuff. And I sort of think, what what are the sort of things that the people higher up get away with? Get away with not knowing what they should know, get away with doing the right thing, versus someone who's lower on the totem pole, what they're able to get away with, which feels like nothing.
I completely agree with you. And for the record, I have no idea which one of the deputy city managers is that I'm talking about. I just know it's the dude with the glasses.
Listen, it's not the city manager, so that's what counts. It's just one of the deputies.
Yeah, I could point him out. But anyway, back to the Morley questions. The housing secretariat is the one who stands up and says, well, there's over 10,000 unhoused and more than 80,000 on the wait list. Well, those aren't exact numbers, but at least she could fucking give me what's the word I'm looking for? Give me a scale of what it's like. The deputy city manager couldn't even
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
The housing secretariat says that the city has a new definition of the word affordable housing, but doesn't want to say what it is.
I don't like that.
All she says is it has to do with income.
Oh, I don't like that.
You see, the jobbers are back.
I don't like that.
Where was Paul Johnson during this meeting? I hope he's on the headset in the back. No, I'm just trying to cut a wrestling promo, I guess. Okay.
We'll talk to Mayor Simcoe about that.
So, Councillor Fletcher's questions. Fletcher gets the deputy manager to agree that some of this stuff was done in the past with no financial forethought, like not keeping track of ranking TPA lots to see which make money and which don't. Something as simple as that was never tracked. He asks for numbers for certain things, and he defers to other city staff to answer. So now we go to Burnside's questions. Councillor Burnside. He asked about the criteria for being considered for affordable housing. And we're still talking so the housing secretariat is answering the questions, I think, for the most part here. She talked about income in the 50th and 60th percentiles. And he asked what percent of people on affordable housing are residents of Toronto, because she had let it slip that not all people on this list are residents of Toronto. So she started talking but wasn't answering his question, and he cut her off saying, I'm not trying to be rude, but I asked you a question and you are editorializing. She says she doesn't have the answer he's looking for. It never ceases to amaze me. One council meeting, you get the main event stars, and then the next one you get the jobbers, or you get the jobbers first and then the main event ones. Why can't we just have the main event all the time to answer the questions? Where the fuck is Paul Johnson? Paging Paul Johnson.
Matthew, when you become Councillor King, Ward 1, I do very much expect you to have a very wrestling themed office.
Oh yeah. And I'm going to hold people to account same way. Maybe I won't be able to blast them on a podcast. Fine.
But you will be able to pile drive them in the ring installed in your office.
I look forward to that.
Tell me that's a great use of government funds. Anyone tell me if anyone wants to fight me, we'll take it to Councillor King's ring, and then we'll fight for it.
That's right. So the housing secretariat also doesn't have the number of people on the wait list that are Toronto residents. So this is just more and more information that they don't have. But yet, this is in front of council, and council is supposed to be voting on recommendations from city staff, recommendations without all this information, which is complete horseshit. Now your boy is up.
Oh, my boy.
Brad Bradford. He asks how many TPA sites are operating at a net loss, and the deputy city manager says he does not have that info.
They're really just not on it, that council meeting.
This has turned into a pro-housing or pro-car discussion. If there's nowhere to park, where can the car go? Where can it go? Why does it have to be one or the other? Why do you have to choose between being a transit lover or a car lover? Why can't you be both?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being both. In fact, I would say it's politicians who try to pit it against each other.
And I understand looking for more sites to build housing, but when you talk about, again, affordable housing, we don't know what their definition is because she wouldn't say what it was. So I'm left to assume or speculate. And doing that, I'm not going to give the city the benefit of the doubt. At the end of the day, they want the cars away from downtown. It really bugs me that it comes down to, well, you either want housing or you want your car. I didn't want to mention this, but I've recently learned something that I'm not okay with. I'm gonna do something about it. I just don't know what that is. I told you that I moved, right? I'm still in Ward 1, so we're good for 2026. But so there's a street that I turn on to get to my street. And on this street, every time I pass it, there's a car. There's a car that I pass. It's one of those old sedan looking cars. And I notice it because the car door, the driver door is always ajar. And every time I look in it, there's an elderly man sitting in the car. Doesn't matter what time of day it is. So it leads me to believe that more than likely he's living in his car. And I, whatever, the weather's turning right now, so we're okay, but it didn't just start like this. And it breaks my heart that to see someone to have to suffer like that. Now, I've slept in my car before, so I understand what it's like. But, you know, I drove by it and it looks like there's a bunch of shit in his back of the vehicle. So I can only assume that he sleeps sitting up, which is, if for anyone who's slept sitting up, it's motherfucking uncomfortable. Um, Again, I don't know how to go about it, but I'm gonna do something because it just doesn't sit right with me. It's not right. It's wrong, and it just bugs the shit out of me. And then the last point I made on the meetings, because the rest of the meeting was basically like, yeah, defer this, defer that, defer this, defer that, vote, 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 done. So the last point I made actually has to do with your city councilor,
Parthi.
Parthi Candival. So most councilors say they will support the city recommendations, but Councillor Candival, even while giving his support, cautions that other counts cautions the other councilors not to vilify drivers for driving to and parking at or near subway stations to go to work.
Oh, but nobody's.
But that's no, because the bit one of the bit they're after the bigger lots. So for
Yeah.
example, in Councillor Holiday's, I don't know if it's his or Councillor Morley's ward. They may share that. I'm not sure because it's at Kipling Station is where I'm referring to. They have a huge lot, and he actually showed a picture of the lot. He's like, so what if I went there at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning and I told all these people, hey, how would you feel about not being able to park here? And because there's going to be buildings going up for affordable housing. How would you feel? Would you be able to get to work? What would you have to do? And stuff like that. I didn't write that part down, but I should have. Um, but yeah, so I disagree with it, them turning it into you either support housing or you support cars. You either support transit or you support cars. It does not have to be one or the other. It can be both.
See, what's interesting about I want to say Parthi's position there is, in fact, that's sort of the stuff that is the thing that makes you say I like Parthi as a person. I'm oppositional to him politically because he ran very much on this sort of stuff. Kind of, I'm going to refer to it as anti-development, even though that's not entirely accurate. Um, I feel like he's more about uh despite acknowledging that things need to change, I do feel like Parthi is more the we need to slow our roll, take our time, and really deliberate these decisions, which I think would have made him a very great addition to city council in the year 2010. I think we've dithered too long. I think we just have to start doing things. That's my opinion.
And with that, that concludes the council meetings. I hope to bring notes like this every time there's a council meeting. I know it gets kind of long a little bit. One thing I want to start doing, I don't have it in front of me right now. Next time we next time we do this, I'm gonna have the what I like to call the ratings. So how many people watch it on YouTube? I'll look that up and we'll discuss that. Few things before we take our next break because we're gonna have to go into the future tomorrow and bring you
They don't know that.
the final part of that. But you won't even know we left.
You'll
Um,
think it was just one smooth transition. the concept of time, you'll be like, what even is time? They just went talking from one to the next, and they said it was a whole day, but it was 2 seconds. I don't understand anything. I don't know what am I doing here, Matthew? What am I role playing here?
Couple of quick points. I wanted to just briefly go back to last week and say, I don't know if, or maybe it is that Alan Fong is Chris Sky and whatever, and
Mm.
uh, whether it was a big joke or not, but the reason that we covered it is because he ran for city council, and obviously we were correct in stating, assuming, and restating today that because of this and everything else, it's just proof positive that Chris Sky cannot be taken seriously. And that's all I want to say on that. You want to add anything?
Uh no, you nailed it. I
So,
don't there's a
so
part of me that says I don't want to be too abrasive, and then there's the other part of me that's like, no, we're allowed to just say Chris Sky is a clown. We're allowed to say that.
so our former, he's never been on the show, but our former friend Adam Golding is seeking the federal NDP nomination for University Rosedale.
That's Chrystia Freeland's writing, right?
Correct. And I don't personally have anything against Adam. I think he's an all right guy. I don't think that he's going to get the nomination. Um, that's just my personal opinion. Do you have a spoiler alert or?
I don't I I like Adam. He's very principled. You know, but I guess it depends on who else is running. And as I've learned when you were talking about a certain potential candidate in Scarborough for the Conservatives.
Ugh.
um I don't know who else is running, and they don't it doesn't seem like they publicize who is running for that
I wish they
position.
would.
I as well. I think it would be so interesting.
Anyway, so in our next, when we come back from break, we're going to discuss the 2024 provincial budget. But I want to discuss right now news. I assume you know, but Ontario Place for All taking the province to court.
Yeah, listen. The only thing that if you have more to say, that's great.
I had a tweet to
The
read,
the
but
only
go ahead.
thing the only thing that to me that I'm like thinking about here is just like happy Norm, happy life, like I'm rooting for Norm no matter what he's doing. If he tells me he's running for the Spadina Fort York federal nomination for the NDP, I'm running to that man's side. Unless he tells me that I'm too like toxic on Twitter that he doesn't want to be seen with me, and I'd be like, "Yes, sir. I will stay away from you." But I love Norm. Everything for Norm.
Here it is. Josh Matlow's tweet. Just because Doug Ford doesn't care about our waterfront's natural environment at Ontario Place, that doesn't mean the fight is over to protect it. Our champions at Ontario Place for All are taking the Ontario government to court. They will always, and they will always have my gratitude and support. Your thoughts on his tweet?
Uh, I think. Listen, we are all Team Norm here.
What's to stop the Ontario government, even if they're successful, what's to stop the Ontario government from using the notwithstanding clause?
Can I? Here's my sad reality. What's stopping them? The only thing stopping them is public perception, and that hasn't stopped them so far. So I'd say nothing. Nothing's stopping them.
You raise a good point.
In
And
fact, it's just I don't know if you've seen this. Okay, now that we're doing a little bit of on the political side, sorry, provincial side, we're always talking about politics. There is from Polling Canada on Twitter. It's showing for the province of Ontario net approval of provincial government's handling of, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's 13 different sections of what the government is working on. Every single one of them is in the negative.
You got to send me that link.
I'll send you that one, and actually a quick and another one from our friend. I say our friend as if one day Colin DeMello will acknowledge the MuniciPALS. But so he made a tweet which I feel like this, if people weren't so tribalistic and were on their teams, the people who talked about Kathleen Wynne being an open purse in Ontario until Doug Ford came, they should be absolutely pissed at. I'm going to read Colin's tweet. The cost of staffing the premier's office under Doug Ford has more than doubled since 2019, according to salary disclosures, far outpacing his predecessor Kathleen Wynne.
Wow. So much for reducing the size and cost of government.
Yeah, listen, even if I don't agree with the idea of shrinking government, paying less, if that's what your ideology is and you say that's what you want to do, and then you do the opposite.
So just to before we go to break, there's one tweet I want to go over. It's basic ideology. I love this tweet, even if I don't. So the person that wrote this tweet is a former municipal guest. I don't know that she and I would agree on ideologies and everything. You and I don't even agree on everything, but I love this tweet, and I'm going to read it, and I'd love your quick thoughts before we go to break. So it's from Beth Levy, and it's a response to someone else's tweet, and she writes, "I honestly don't care left, right, progressive, conservative, or libertarian. Just tell the truth. I have very simple asks." I thought that was beautiful. Your thoughts?
You know what? I don't know what the context is, but
Neither do I, but
there's so much fundamentally, as I said earlier, I feel like there's so much tribalism and partisanship when we talk about politics. I'm not criticizing myself. I'm all about partisanship. I love being like, fuck the conservatives. But there's an element where it does feel like every level, every different provincial premier, federal government, the municipal governments, it's like they're all fighting against each other. And it feels like we're getting nothing done. So, yeah, I'm team Beth. Someone just fucking do shit.
just tell the truth. I love that. I'm a truth teller. I love to. I don't give a shit if I hurt someone's feelings. I'm I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but I'm going to tell the truth. Anyway, I can't think of a better way to end that. So we will see you guys on the other side.